All right. So, I saw the other video that I made, and apparently people really thought that that was a good video in terms of like how to fully develop that in during adolescence. And I thought, okay, well, because of that, I might as well go into a little bit more detail. I'm not going to cover everything that I previously covered, so if I already previously covered it, I'll just say like go watch the previous video. But yeah. So first off, we're going to talk about how you fully develop during adolescence, and that's basically it. How to fully develop during adolescence, and how to also develop attractively during adolescence. So the first thing actually is something this one thing I did not cover in the other one. In fact, it's the most important one, but I think it's sort of like already obvious. But maybe it's not super obvious, so I'm just going to say it. Sleep. You really need to be sleep. Like you need to have really good quality sleep. Now you might say, how exactly do I have good quality sleep? What can I do to have good quality sleep? There's a couple things I think that you can do. If you haven't seen my sleeping on the floor video, go check that out. It's in the Min-Maxing Health playlist. Yeah, I think sleeping on the floor is especially important, especially actually during adolescence, because you are really forcing the bones to adapt to the environment, in this case the floor that they're exposed to, and that will cause the bones to, especially as you're growing, to be put under more stress, meaning they have to grow bigger and stronger. So yeah, that's a pretty big part, but I'm not going to be getting into that. The main thing I was actually going to cover when it comes to sleep is what kind of environment to sleep in. Now, I think this is super underrated. You need to basically black out the environment if you can. So when I'm saying black out the environment, I am talking you make the entire place pretty much pitch black when you close the door. How do you do this, you might say? Well, you're going to probably need blackout curtains, and not just blackout curtains, but like you might even have to tape them over the window to make sure that the light doesn't get in. Basically, you're trying to block as much light as possible. And the reason is because in current society, sadly, lights are everywhere. They're just everywhere. They're in so many places that there's this really interesting thing when it comes to history. People before the lighting was invented, in terms of electrical lighting was invented, people used candles and stuff, and people's sleep pattern was completely different. People had a more polyphasic sleep, meaning that they slept in for instance, they would sleep maybe 6 hours, and then afterwards they'd wake up, and then they'd sleep 2 hours throughout the day and take a 2 hour nap, and then maybe sleep a little bit more later on, or that sort of a thing, right? They're basically sleeping not necessarily all at once, but in increments. And suddenly, in the modern environment, once artificial lighting was invented, I can't remember who it was, but there was somebody who basically recorded it in time, saying people's sleep has changed, and it's noticeable, and they recorded this. So I found that particularly interesting. And I think that's really important. So that's why you really need to black out the room when you're sleeping, and not expose yourself to all these artificial lights if it's possible. That's a really, really big one during sleep. Now, before sleep, obviously, if you can, you want to wear red light glasses, or you want to just try to not expose yourself to blue light as much. But if you can't, for some reason, then at the very least, make sure that the environment that you're in is pretty much pitch black. That's a pretty big part. The second thing is food. I have talked about this already, so if you're interested in the details behind what kind of food, why, and how it all works, like the literal science behind it, go check out the Real Nutrition Science playlist. When to eat, I have not talked about. How to eat, I already have talked about. It's in the previous video, so go check that out. Because yes, you actually have to eat a certain way, and I'm talking about using your incisors, but that's not the point right now. When to eat. So when might you eat if you're trying to grow during adolescence? Now, this is where it's very important to be, this is going to sound a little weird, it's important to be a little bit more like an animal during your adolescence. And what do I mean by be like an animal? I mean to be reactive to your body's stimulus. So your body will give you signals, I guess you could say. And these signals might be like, hey, I want to eat right now. Or you're just craving some sort of food for some reason. Now, by that some sort of food, I don't mean addictive food that is more like cocaine, for instance, sugar. But I'm talking about a regular food like meat or milk or cheese or something. If you are craving something like that during adolescence, indulge. Like eat it. Just make sure it's not a one of those foods like once again like sugar or some sort of basically sugar is the most addictive one currently. Spice could also be another one, but the bottom line, just keep it animal based because I talked about optimal food. But when you eat is very important. There's a really good chance that during adolescence you will just be eating whenever you feel like it throughout the day. So if you feel like eating something throughout the day randomly, then eat it. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, that's about it when it comes to when to eat. The third thing I already talked about, exercise in the previous video. If you're interested, go check that out. Also, I made a video on the science behind a little bit how exercise works. So yeah, that'll explain like microfractures and stuff and a little bit of bone growth. The fourth thing, this one is super important. In fact, this one is underrated. I would say the first three are definitely the most important by far. Sleep is the most important. Diet is the second most important. Exercise is also important for growth of the body, not necessarily health per se, but of the body. Give me a second. Okay. There's a fly on my window and I want to kill it because it's annoying. Anyways. The fourth thing that I was going to say is stress regulation and mental state. This is hugely, hugely, hugely important. So this is why you have to become masculine. I've made a video on what defines masculinity, what truly defines masculinity. And it's a little bit exhausting, but you're going to have to get used to it. And I'm talking about not basically always being proactive and not being reactive to the environment. So it's sort of weird. You have to be, during that stage in your life when you're young, you have to be reactive to your body, meaning you have to be very keenly aware of what your body is saying, but you have to not be reactive to the environment outside of your body. So if the environment outside of your body is maybe conducive of stress for some reason, there's a lot of yelling going on. Personal experience on that one. Lived that my entire life. If there's for some reason physical violence and you're seeing a lot of physical violence and it's that stressful, there's a lot of things, but to keep it really simple, stress regulation, super important. Go check out the video under the relationships playlist. I think it's called What Truly Defines Masculinity. That will explain everything that you have to take into your mindset in order to not be stressed at all. Because if you take all those things and you put them into your mindset, you will not be stressed. And the way you view life will be much better. Honestly, I really wish I had that ability back then to view life like that. But I didn't, sadly. So it is what it is. It most likely did affect my health quite a bit because honestly, I was extremely stressed growing up. I was extremely, extremely stressed. These next two aren't particularly very, very big when it comes to development of attractiveness per se. In some sense, actually, no, I take that back. Attractiveness is developed in this case, but it's not developed physically. So the fifth thing is social connection. Now, if you think that looks maxing is the only thing that determines whether or not a girl does or does not like you, you are completely mistaken. You do not understand female psychology and how that works. Once again, go check out the relationship playlist if you're really interested. But yeah, you need to have social connection. You need to be able to talk to people. You need to be able to learn how to talk to people. If you're really good at it, I mean, it's a little difficult. But if you're really, really good at it, you can eventually start talking in front of a camera like I am right now. And it gets really weird because you're talking not necessarily to a person. You're just talking to black dot that you're looking at. It's weird. So yeah, if you get a lot better, but I wouldn't recommend practicing with talking to a camera. But you can do a little bit of practice, but you definitely need to be exposed to other people. And the sixth thing, you can't really control this, but if you can sort of control this, but not really. Sometimes you can. It depends really on the environment in this case, which is exactly what it is. Environment. What is your environment like? What is the air quality like? Are you exposing yourself to some sort of inflammatory stimuli on a regular basis? Like, for instance, are you regularly being exposed to poison ivy for some reason? Are you regularly being exposed to mold? Like, if you're being exposed to a lot of these external stimuli like that, then your body focuses more on the immune system part, meaning that it tries to prepare you against that rather than focusing on your growth. So I would recommend not exposing yourself to that stuff. So yeah. And also another thing, because I'm not entirely sure if this is like, once again, super obvious. I always see this as super obvious, but maybe this isn't super obvious. The very last thing I would say is breathing correctly. So what do I mean? Don't breathe through your mouth. Do not breathe through here. Breathe through here. Breathe through your nose. You want to be mewing, obviously. This is, I've talked about this before, but basically your tongue, you want it to always be on the back of the roof of your mouth for the most part. When you're chewing food and when you're swallowing, especially, you want it in the, you want it to sort of gulp, I guess you could say. I demonstrated previously what that sort of looks like in the previous video using water. So yeah, I'd say those are all of the main things. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you guys learned something valuable. This is more details on it because I really saw that the video apparently blew up. A lot of people found that super interesting or super helpful. So yeah, this is part 2. This is the details on it a bit more. I'm not going, once again, through all of the details because if you're really interested, the Min-Maxing Health playlist and the Real Nutrition Science playlist cover just about everything. And then afterwards, when it comes to mental state and not being perpetually stressed, which by the way is actually super important because that will affect your gut health as you're growing up if you are exposed to extreme stress. And in turn, that extreme stress affecting your gut health will affect your growth a little bit because you won't be absorbing anything as well. So yeah, there's a lot of, it's sort of all interlinks, but yeah. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you guys learned something valuable. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.